This is Jennifer Gonzalez welcoming you to episode 93 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about 8 things I know for sure about middle school kids. I never planned to teach middle school. When I got my teaching degree, I was set on teaching high school English, but the only open position I found was in a middle school. So I took it, planning to move up as soon as possible. Well, I never looked back. Something about that age just got me. And over the 8 years I worked with this age group, I became kind of an expert on the idiosyncrasies of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I figured out how to make the most of their special qualities. If you recently started teaching middle school or you have a child this age, you've probably discovered these things too. In this episode, I'm going to list 8 traits of middle school kids that can make them interesting and challenging to work with, plus the approaches I ultimately took to make the most of those traits. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor, My Simple Show. My Simple Show is this really cool online tool that allows you to create your own animated videos for free. It's really easy and fast. You just write your script or upload a PowerPoint, then fine-tune the images. And teachers and students can also add their own voiceovers to the videos. It's perfect for flipping your classroom and having students create their own videos. MySimpleShow.com is now offering a new free classroom plan with additional features just for educators and students. The plan offers collaborative explainer video making and full creative freedom for up to 50 students. To sign up to this free classroom option, just go to mysimpleshow.com/pricing and select the educational icon. I'd also like to thank our other sponsor, Screencast-O-Matic. Screencast-O-Matic is an easy-to-use screen recorder tool that makes flipped and blended learning super simple for teachers. You can record your lessons, directions for student assignments, video announcements, and anything else you need a screencast for using either your Chromebook, PC, or Mac. Screencast-O-Matic hosts your videos and allows you to edit them so everything you need for video production is all in one tool. Cult of Pedagogy listeners can get 50% off your first year of Screencast-O-Matic Pro subscriptions. Just go to screencast-o-matic.com/pedagogy50. Now, just in case you're a little confused about the difference between these tools, Screencast-O-Matic is really good if you need to show students how to do something on your computer, like how to start using something in Google Drive, for example, or you want to, give your own lecture, like with a PowerPoint or something like that. My Simple Show has these little animations, and it's better for sort of an animated type of a video, and they provide a lot of the illustrations for you. So I could really see you using either one of these tools. So the first one is My Simple Show, and then the other one is Screencast-O-Matic. The last thing I would like to say before we get into the episode is I just want to thank you for the reviews you've left for the podcast on iTunes. When you leave these reviews, they really help to bring more people to the show. So if you think I'm doing good work here and you think other people would like it, take a few minutes today to go over to iTunes and leave a review. Thanks so much. Okay, 8 things I know for sure about middle school kids. Number 1, they care more about the opinions of their peers than pretty much anything else. And by the way, I'm using a little exaggeration here. These are not all middle school kids everywhere forever. I've had some middle school students write to me and say, these don't all apply to me. These are generalizations. So they care more about the opinions of their peers than pretty much anything else. This means they will sometimes do things that make no sense, like not turning in an assignment that you know they worked hard on because they just found out they'll have to read it out loud in front of class. Or refusing your offer of a chocolate milk, even though they love chocolate milk, because someone else is around who recently declared all chocolate milk to be babyish. Here's how you deal with this problem of them caring about their peers' opinion. See if you can make this quality work for you. Find the most confident kids in class, the ones everyone looks up to, and try to get them to take on a new project or help you lead the charge towards some endeavor you want everyone else on board for. If Josie the cool girl says she likes Shakespeare, others are more likely to follow. Also, know that socializing is a huge motivator for middle school kids. If you promise 5 minutes of talking time at the end of class in exchange for hard work the rest of the hour, you're more likely to get full cooperation. Number 2, they are horrified by what their bodies are doing. For those of us who are well past adolescence, it's easy to forget what it was like to deal with the constant betrayal that comes with a new body. There you are, going about your regular kid business, when one day your skin explodes with zits. Popping them turns out to make them even more noticeable. Or you're sitting in third period, quietly suffering through some kid's serious BO. Escaping to fourth period, you discover the smell is there too. After a quick check, you're struck with the devastating realization that the person with BO is you. Every couple of weeks, some new phenomenon introduces itself into the middle schooler's physical life, threatening to destroy their social lives until high school graduation. So here's how you deal with this. Try not to call attention to their bodies. They would prefer that no one point out that their voices are changing, their feet are getting bigger, or worse, that they don't seem to be growing at all. Also, if you're trying to get a kid to do something public, like do a problem on the board or pass out a worksheet, and they really resist you, there is probably a physical explanation, be it a boner, a suspected period leak, or the sudden discovery of a muffin top. I'm guessing you all know what a muffin top is, but in case you don't, this is a girl thing. This is where like your jeans are a little tight and then the fat around your waist sort of spills over the top a little. We call that a muffin top. If you get inexplicable resistance from a kid, just back off. Don't try to figure out the reason. Just move on to another kid. The one you let off the hook will be eternally grateful. Number 3, they trend toward hyperbole. You say there's a spider in the corner of a 7th grade classroom? Get ready for a wall-climbing, horror movie screaming, Armageddon-style wig out. Did it just start snowing outside? Sit back and watch them all act like they never saw snow, complete with squeals and fist pumps and fist bumps and the whole gang rushing to the window. Wait, is someone crying in the bathroom at the dance? Observe as 10 girls sprint through the gym, tugging each other's arms with faces that say, "This is the most important thing that has ever happened, ever." Whether it's due to limited life experience, hormones wreaking havoc on emotions, or the trying on of identities, young adolescents tend to exaggerate just a bit. How do you deal with it? Validate the real feelings behind these exaggerations while trying to reframe their experiences in more realistic terms, like this. Yep, spiders can be scary. Let's take care of this little guy so we can get back to work. By describing problems in calm, rational language, you're modeling the way a healthy person navigates life's little surprises. And try to have a sense of humor. Instead of getting annoyed at this behavior, know that it will pass. And in a certain light, it's actually kind of funny. Number 4, they are mortified by public praise. Elementary school kids seem to delight in being recognized in front of their peers. Winning the perfect attendance award, student of the month, highest math score, all of these make them beam with pride. But pull a middle school kid up in front of his peers to wax poetic on his good qualities, and a lot of times you'll see that kid shrivel up like an old grape. I had a student once, a tough Bosnian guy, who also happened to be a fantastic writer. One day while returning papers, I called out, "If you want to see a really well-written essay, take a look at Amir's." My thinking was that they would be all, "Wow, if a cool guy like Amir writes well, then I want to do that too." Nope. Amir looked at me like I just took his wallet. And for the rest of the year, he turned in crappy writing. It's not that the praise was unwelcome. I think it was the public part he didn't like. If I wanted him to keep writing well, I think I should have kept quiet about it. So here's how to deal with it. I would say definitely keep up the praise, but do it in private. Now, I've had some kids read this article, this post, and say that this is one of the ones that they don't think is true, that they like it. So this may not be the case for all kids, but if you find that you are complimenting a student in public and you don't really get a reaction that you're expecting, that could be what it is. That any attention at all like that publicly is it's just not something they want. It's just too much attention, and it may be messing with the identity that they are cultivating at that particular time. Number 5, they can't be trusted. Just found out you're pregnant and want to share it with a student you're close to? Might as well put it in the morning announcements. Throwing a surprise party for another teacher and you want to let your kids in on the secret? Consider the surprise ruined. Middle school kids may have every intention of keeping confidential information to themselves, but when an opportunity to share presents itself, they have a hard time resisting being the one who's in the know. At this age, they don't yet understand the consequences that can result from sharing something that's not meant to be shared. What's worse, they have a way of dropping all subtleties from the original message. So when you happen to say something like, Mrs. Flowers' class is a little more structured than mine, it's passed on to Mrs. Flowers as, Ms. Gonzalez said you're too strict. So here's how you deal with it. Treat your middle school kids the same way that you should treat the internet. Don't share anything you aren't willing to see broadcast in public. And when I say that they can't be trusted, I don't mean that they are deliberately doing this. I think it's just one of those things where they just kind of can't help themselves. So just remember that they're not adults and secrets should not be shared with them. Number 6, they just now realized you're a human being. Wait, never mind. As children move through Piaget's stages of cognitive development, they go from being completely egocentric, perceiving themselves as the center of the universe, to being more aware of the existence of life outside their immediate surroundings. Right around age 11 or 12 is when people typically enter the final stage, formal operational, where they start to understand that others might experience the world differently than they do. But getting firmly into this stage takes time, and it's a bumpy road. This means a couple of things. Number 1, they will be intensely interested in you sometimes. They'll ask all kinds of questions about your personal life, your family, the kind of food and music you like, whether or not you cuss and drink outside of school hours. But then Number 2, their awareness of other people's needs is still patchy. On days when you're not feeling well and you ask them to just give you 15 minutes of quiet at the end of a class period, they'll agree, fully intending to help you out, but cut to 5 minutes later and your room is a freaking zoo. So here's how you deal with it. Enjoy the admiration and interest when you get it, but don't be surprised if there are times when they forget you exist at all. That formal operational stage can be awfully slippery at first. And as for those super personal questions, answer them within reason. In school, you're still a role model, a professional, and you're not their friend. So always give them the G-rated version of your life. Number 7, they are pulling away from their parents. I can't count the number of parents who told me their kids barely told them anything anymore, who said they had no idea what their kids' school lives were like. Pulling away from parents is a normal part of adolescence. Although kids this age need adult guidance possibly more than at any other time in their lives, they've reached the point where their parents may be the last ones they look to for it. Here's how to deal with it. As a trusted adult in their lives, you're in a unique position to influence these kids and fill in the gaps that have been left by their self-imposed isolation from their own families. So remember to be the adult. Advise responsibly, model smart decision-making, and unless you suspect that abuse is going on in the home, avoid taking the child's side over the parents. You're in a partnership with the student and their primary caregivers, so be sure your students are always clear about that. Number 8 is they are still kids. 1 minute, you're having a deep philosophical discussion with them about the symbolism in a Robert Frost poem. They're really getting it. and you can almost see them maturing right before your eyes. 10 minutes later, they're making armpit farts and asking if it's okay to drink the water from the fish tank. And then there's the wiggling, an almost unbearable amount of it, especially from the boys. The demonstrated maturity level of middle school kids is all over the map, changing from child to child and within each individual. Here's how to deal with it. Don't expect mature behavior to last. And when childishness shows up, just know that it's normal. They are acting their age. Learn how to capitalize on it. Unlike high school kids, middle schoolers are much more enthusiastic about things like review games, and they are unbelievably willing to take a note to the office or hand out papers for you. The wiggling is normal too. Those bodies are growing like crazy, and with no more recess for most middle school kids, there are very few opportunities to burn off that energy. If you find that the wiggles are disrupting class, it's a good sign that you haven't built enough movement into your plans. Add that in, and you should see more self-control when it's absolutely necessary. Most of the time, when I told someone I was a middle school teacher, I got the same basic reaction. They would wince, or they would say, "Whoa." And then they would add something along the lines of, "Whew, tough age." And I would smile and nod, knowing that tough didn't begin to cover it. One word could never quite capture the ridiculous, smelly, stubborn, fragile beauty of them all. To read the written version of this post, go to cultofpedagogy.com, click podcast, and choose episode 93. To get a weekly email from me about my newest blog posts, podcast episodes, and products, sign up for my mailing list at cultofpedagogy.com/subscribe. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day. This podcast is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. To learn more, visit edupodcastnetwork.com.